Hey, that's pretty good.
Tonight at 11.
Doom!
Hello everyone, welcome back. I am American Grit, and thank you for tuning in to see me torture myself more out on the rim.
Yeah, you're gonna take it. You're all alone now, Toilet. Nobody can hear you scream.
As you can see, more than a few days have passed since you have seen me out on the rim. The rice is growing in pretty nicely. I killed a flamingo for some reason, probably because it was pretty close.
Until now, such an orchestrated attack on flamingos has rarely been witnessed or recorded.
Something that happened that I did not talk about when Chaos first came in, since I am a much better shot than her, I pretty much stole her gun. Don't really know what it would look like asking, someone who wanders into your colony, butt-ass naked, and then being like, hey man, give me your gun, take this bow and go out and hunt wild animals, but give me your gun. I don't really know what that would look like, but it happened, and I have her gun now.
So I guess you have a choice. You want a war? Or do you want to just give me a gun?
But onto a couple of other less exciting things. So Chaos has been busy the past couple of days hunting, and with the large amount of animals that we've been having to kill the past couple of days to keep the huskies fed, I decided to make use of a little bit more of my wood and to get a butcher's table going. It is a lot more efficient than just using the crafting spot that you have down there. You get a lot more meat and you get a lot more leather from animals that you butcher. So again, in the interest of efficiency, I would like to get a butcher's table down so that we don't have to hunt as often. Myself, either cooking meals or butchering animals for food for meals, while Chaos busies herself making another bow for me.
Are you sure about that?
Wait, what is she making again? She's making tools. Oh. While Chaos begins making some metal tools for me in preparation of the upcoming harvest. Randy keeps up the good news, and he gives me a cargo pod full of agave fruit. Unfortunately, the husky training is not done, so having the huskies go out to fetch everything for me isn't really an option, so that's just something that we're going to have to take care of later today. But for the immediate future, it looks like most of the rest of the morning is still going to be spent cooking for me and tool making for Chaos. Around early afternoon, most of the chores and menial work that I had planned for the beginning of the day gets done. The remainder of my day is going to be spent finishing up a couple of harvesting jobs, and finally, for the first time since I've lived here, having a table and chairs to sit on. At this point, for the amount of time that I've been eating without a table, I'm sure that on the rim I'm basically on the verge of going insane. After several failed construction attempts, I finally get a chair and a table built so that Chaos and I can stop eating on the ground like savages. Since I've now killed 2 huskies, unfortunately, that did have one good side effect of giving me enough dog leather to make a backpack for Chaos. Since she's been doing most of the hauling for the colony, I am allowing her to get a backpack just because personally I find the idea of wearing a backpack made out of husky leather really, really creepy.
It's Dennis!
What are you talking about?
You're eating the dog!
But this chick might be a little bit open-minded considering she walked into my house completely naked with a gun, so I mean that should kind of give you an idea what kind of woman this is that I'm dealing with. And later on that night, in the midst of myself and Chaos blowing off a little bit of steam, we have a male space refugee fall down from the sky and land right in the middle of a river.
Ah! It's the bee!
So looking at his stats, I'm not really a huge fan of allowing him into our colony. He is kind of the stark opposite of myself. He has very good fortune, but he is a wimp.
You're being kind of a bitch.
And he hates doing dumb labor. He does have really good skills, and it looks like he wasn't too badly injured, although someone having anxiety is a mildly annoying thing to have. He's not someone that I would like to have in my colony, especially on a jungle playthrough. The last time I had a wimpy colonist at a jungle playthrough, he had sleeping sickness, and he was what I can only describe as basically a coma for a year. So that's not really something that I want a repeat of. However, I do kind of feel bad for him. You know, obviously, him crashing from a transport pod from somewhere in this faction means that, you know, he was at least lucky enough to get off the planet, and then, I don't know, maybe his transport pod crashed or had a malfunction and he came crashing back. So I take enough pity on him. Obviously not enough pity to use any of my precious medicine on.
Wow, that was pretty brutal even by my standards. No backsies.
But since his sternum is cracked and he's drowning, I can at least pull him out of the river and do my best to uncrack his sternum or recrack his sternum. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how that would work.
I'm gonna show you a little trick. Take your mind off that arm. Give me a hand. You may feel a little pressure.
My finger! My finger!
Every time.
But treat him somehow. I do have to move some of my furniture around, but I'm just gonna kind of put him down on the floor in our room. I'm not, you know, I wouldn't really be super worried about some dude, you know, waking up in the middle of the night and like trying to do some stuff with me and Chaos in the room, you know, especially since I got her. Well, I guess I didn't have her pistol when I said this, but you know, he's naked. He doesn't have any tools. You know, I'm not really super worried about but he's not naked. Oh. I just fished him out of a river and saved his life, so hopefully, you know, he doesn't try to do anything to me in the middle of the night, you know. Plus, you know, with the 2 surviving huskies, I'd feel pretty safe.
I don't even know who you are.
So I just kind of patched him up and go to sleep. A new day dawns. It looks like the first batch of rice that I planted is ready to harvest, and Chaos also starts the day off with a little bit of food. Because she goes off and hunts down a rat. You know, I guess out on the rim there are no levels to which you will not stoop to survive. I had her hunt a rat because there wasn't really a whole lot of animals nearby that were easy to hunt, and the rat was kind of like right next to our base. So I guess, you know, for tonight we're gonna be having rat stew. But Chaos finishes making her backpack, and since right now I'm still kind of walking around with my willy out, I'm still naked. I don't have any pants.
I'm sexy and I know it.
I am going to have Chaos get right on that now that she's made her backpack. To be perfectly honest, I wasn't really thinking, and I probably should have had her make pants first before the backpack. But, you know, something I wasn't really thinking about. But anyways, pretty good portion of the morning is just spent with Chaos crafting and myself harvesting up the first crop of rice that we've been able to successfully grow out here. The remainder of that day has myself going out to get a little bit more medicine. We wouldn't have enough medicine to treat any kind of major illness as it stood right now. And Chaos busies herself with a little bit more fishing for the rest of the day. Later on, Bourbon the doctor finishes recovering from his unfortunate tumble from the sky. He does not want to join us, which is actually very thankful for us. However, him leaving the map will get us a little bit of goodwill with the faction that he came from. Not a whole lot more happens for the rest of the day. The only other major noteworthy thing that happens is the small renovation that I wanted to make, adding on a little bit more space to expand the bedroom so that I can start thinking about having 2 separate bedrooms for me and Chaos happens. But unfortunately, since I failed constructing the wall like 4 freaking times, it doesn't get finished. And that's pretty much it for the rest of the day. The next day is a little bit more of the same. I do start my morning off finishing up cooking the rest of the meals, so we're finally up to a point where we have enough meals for me to kind of take a break from cooking for the next couple of days. So for today, most of my major movements are going to be revolving around finishing up the small construction project that I had planned, and then having Chaos kind of clean up around the base and try to keep us ahead of the curve and do a little bit more fishing and hunting. After about 6 hours of construction, I finally ended up finishing the additional wall. The remainder of my day was spent deconstructing a small little house that was nearby, because even that small little construction project that I had done had used up pretty much the entirety of my remaining granite blocks. Later that night, we do have kind of a funny situation occur. We have 2 man-eating jackalopes.
Oh, no.
Come onto the map. I was so not worried about it that I ended up letting myself and Chaos go to sleep until they got closer. But when I saw that pop up, I pretty much looked at that situation as like a free meal.
Looks like meat's back on the menu, boys.
And when they finally got a little bit closer, I just had Chaos kind of shooting at them with arrows, and then my axe-wielding murderer self took out the jackalopes in pretty much the same fashion that I was able to successfully deal with the monkeys.
And you have my bow.
And my axe.
they went down pretty much without any kind of a fight. I think the only injury I had, yeah, it was just a little bit of scratches on my right arm and right shoulder, which is nothing that throwing a little bit of dirt into won't fix. I actually forgot to record quite a bit that happened.
Sweet Clyde, laugh derisively at him.
So I think this was about 2 RimWorld days worth of footage that I missed. But over the course of that, I had a raid. It was a 1-person robot raid, and hilariously enough, he actually immediately when he came on the map, he immediately got attacked by a tiger, and it completely took him out. So the problem kind of fixed itself, and I haven't even really gone out. He will eventually starve to death, even though he's a robot. Well, he will eventually get heat stroke, I guess overheat because it's so hot outside. He will eventually die, but I'm really not even worried enough to go out and get him. And the second major thing that we had happen was we had a gourmet chef, tier 3 android named Bradford number 92. Join, which was actually an incredibly good thing to happen. His skills were phenomenal. He had really good cooking skills, obviously. And if I recall correctly, for the android tiers, I don't remember if the tier 3s were slightly better than humans or about as good as humans as far as like work speed, global learning factor, manipulation, that type of stuff. But they were either as good or slightly better than people, with tier 4s and tier 5s starting to get into like ridiculously better than people. And so a tier 1 and a tier 2 android are significantly worse than people, but having a tier 3 android joining my colony was an absolute godsend. What was not a godsend, however, was the fact that I also caught malaria. I was, to be perfectly honest, was not paying attention to it. And I also had food poisoning at the time, and I was so focused in on making sure that I was able to eat with food poisoning that the malaria was just ticking and ticking. And even from the onset, when I first started really paying attention to this, it looked like I wasn't going to make it. But I stuck through it, and I watched myself over the next couple of days, kind of had my colony running on autopilot, and this fucking piece of shit fucking suck everything, this stupid fucking piece of shit.